Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Jacqueline Kane and this is the Healer Interview Series. And today I'm very excited to have my friend Laura DiFranco here from Brave Healer Productions. So welcome Laura, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Jacqueline. I was just particularly honored that you asked. I love everything that you're doing in the world and I love the collaborations that we have done together. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, through you, I've been able to become an author and even a lead author, which just up levels everything. You have to step into your power when you do something like that, and those are big shoes. So, thank you for being in my world and for encouraging all of us healers to be comfortable writing our words. So, would you please let everybody know who you are and what you do?
So I always debate how I'm going to open this up. I am a retired holistic physical therapist. That was a 30-year first career for me. And somewhere along the line, I started writing. It was quite a while ago and understood the power of writing. And so today I am the CEO of Brave Healer Productions. We're an award-winning publisher for holistic health and wellness professionals. And I took my healing journey and my writing journey and I married them together. And I decided I wanted to pay forward all that stuff I knew about both into this publishing company. So that's the short story.
That is the short story. And for some of you in my world who don't really know Laura, you're more than just a publisher. You had a whole life and career before that. So can you share who you were before that?
Yeah, I mean, the physical therapy piece was me from the very beginning, and I'm talking high school, knowing that I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people feel better. And I thought at first I was going to be a sports medicine doctor, but I went to a little talk in our career center one day and they had a physical therapist there talking about, career. And I literally fell in love with her and her passion and everything she said about the career. So literally, I was 16. From that day forward, I knew what I was going to be. And I did some volunteer work and got my undergrad degree, which leads to a graduate degree in physical therapy. So it was a lot of school and did all of that. Became a wife and a mom and a dog mom and a homeowner and did all these things, that we're supposed to do. I did a lot of sports. I'm a lifelong athlete. So part of that earlier journey is me. It just has to do with me understanding what the body mind is capable of. And so, I don't know, I think that gives you guys a few pieces of, the before me.
And I think that's why I said yes to you, knowing that you're in the health field also. So you have a very good connection between the mind body and how it all works. So even if we have a hard time explaining what we do, because especially I work with energy and it's just hard explaining that and put it into words. So you have the ability to do that. So for all you healers out there who even think about writing a chapter in a book, definitely get into Laura's world because that was my first step in. I couldn't write a whole book. And I know that's a limiting belief, but you got to get through some hoops to be able to write that whole book. But definitely connect with Laura if you're looking to get started in writing. So, Laura, what was your journey into writing and how did you become so passionate about that?
Well, so first, thanks for mentioning that piece. There are a lot of people out there who really, they know they want to write a book. They talk about it a lot. Their friends will tell them, that they
should
talk
write a
about
book.
it. Exactly. But then it just never happens, right? And there's lots of blocks to that. And I don't know, maybe we can get into that in a minute. But I journaled since I was a teenager. I opened up those pages and wrote down my emotions and feelings and thoughts and goals, and everything went in there. And skipping forward a bit, when I opened up a business, my physical therapy practice, I wanted to educate. So I started blogging. I wanted to write and teach messages about mind, body, soul healing and all the things I thought people needed to know about authentic healing, energy, all of these golden nuggets that you don't necessarily learn growing up or in school or whatever. And I was one of those people. If you had talked to my family and friends, they would have told you, "Oh, she keeps talking about writing a book," and I knew I would eventually. But 2012 was when my very first book baby was born, and after that, I guess you just couldn't stop me. After that, I have 10 of my own solo books now, and as a publishing company, we're celebrating book number 63. So that's been fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I still remember the day when COVID came through and you put that post on Facebook. Anybody want to be part of a book? Because your whole life shifted.
Yeah, it did. That
In many
that
lives,
morning.
but yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no kidding. That morning, it was about a week after COVID had shut my practice down, and I had been in a bit of a panic, but I had also been transitioning, the stories where someone will tell you they're transitioning from one business to the other, and then 5 years goes by and they're still transitioning. Well, that was me. And COVID did it for me. So I had to be like, okay, universe, but that morning I was dreaming, waking up with a dream. And it was like, hey, get your healers together. Like, let's help the world. Let's teach these self-healing techniques. Like we were all teachers of these techniques. Yeah. It was part of what we did. So, yep, I wrote that note, invited people in, and 48 hours after that, I had 24 people say yes. And 5 weeks after that, we had that book published to a #1 Amazon bestseller in multiple categories. And it was like the beginning of something I didn't even realize that day. Yeah, it's been exciting.
That's the fun part. And especially, I mean, you had us write our chapters in a week. We had 1 week, people, start to finish. There was no messing around with Laura.
I don't know how y'all did that. I really don't. I'm like, I think about it now and I'm like, I made those poor people do that. Like, what? Yeah. People get about 3 weeks now. It's not much longer, but yeah, we lengthened it a little.
Well, and people have a longer time to think about it. That was like, okay, you in, I need to know now and have the money and right. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. It was like a speed train.
Yes.
But so amazing to watch and to watch all these other books and each of the other authors then jump into this leader role and create their books. It's beautiful to watch.
Well, which you did, and you said earlier those were big shoes to step into, and I want to just say thank you, because I know you didn't totally know what you're getting into when you said yes to that, but it forces you to be seen and heard in bigger ways. I've realized now over and over again after y'all tell me that saying yes to a lead author role, a leader role, really shoved you into your own self-development journey, which I love that part about it, because that is what we're doing here. Is we don't just publish books. This means way more than that. These are legacies being left in the world. This is big potato stuff to me. And so thank you for being one of those people who said yes and stuck with it.
Yeah, it's I learned a long time ago. I think one speaker said, just say yes and figure out what you said yes to later on. You can always back out, but you might have missed something really cool. So I had heard the calling to write that book for a long time. And finally I was like, okay, I'll do it. But yeah, it was really, and to hear people say, I love your book. It's amazing. Oh my God, you grew up in Waterbury. I'm a Waterbury. Like, it's really, and this is months after. This is 8 months, no, longer than that. So it is really exciting to see the ripple effect of where your book is going to show up.
Yes, that's my favorite part you're talking about. And the energy medicine solution was a book that was like the time had come to talk about energy. And you were the one that said that we're going to do that first, right? Like, let's talk about what this is, because it's so powerful and people need to understand those tools. So it's another reason I'm grateful to you, because you had to kind of trailblaze making a topic out loud and really out, if you're going to publish, it's out loud, like
It's
more
out
than your
loud.
mom is going to read it. So, but that report that you're telling me about, when you hear things, is just like, it makes me so happy. Yeah.
Yeah, because all that time and effort and energy, the passion, people are like, I like your persistence. It's not a persistence, it's just your soul, like, not giving you a break. Like, you came here to do it, so do it. And yeah, it's scary and fun and exciting, and to hear the stories later on, it's fucking awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Um,
I love that you just dropped the F bomb in the passion of that, because that's how excited I get too. And also, I mean, this is an opportunity to say thank you to all of your authors who stepped into that project. Like, it's so much more than the book and what we're doing for the reader. It's also a very heart-centered community that cares about world changing. We care about what happens from, as a result of reading the books and beyond the book. And
yeah.
that's I feel so honored, to be a part of a group of people who are all vibing, speaking of
Yes.
energy, at that
Yeah.
high frequency. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was such a big range of some people who this was their first time writing. Oh my God, putting it out there, and then others have done it before. So it's just interesting watching everybody, right? It's like balancing balls. How we all doing, people? Who's freaking out? Who's not happy? Who's, procrastinating? Because you're all of your internal, why am I doing this? All the struggles, like you say, it's big self-development journey to write even just a chapter. It's big, and
Yes.
it can be very healing,
Oh
very
my
healing.
gosh, yes. I mean, the foundation of the company is that this is a healing process, along with your writing and publishing and launching journey. There are stages to this, layers and stages to what comes up for people. Beginning writers, I love you all. I love you for saying yes and wanting to do this new thing and
Yeah.
explore and say yes to the healing journey of it, right? Because man, if you had any amount of I'm not good enough in you before you step into something like this, guess what's going to happen? It's going to come
Get
up.
loud.
Yeah. So we get pretty good at managing the freak out moments in the best supportive way possible. And between you leading a project, me helping to lead that project, and everyone else, I was telling you earlier, even before we started, it's like way more fun to do this together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do have to say that where your company is now, there's so much support. So even if somebody's watching this and wondering, how can I do that? I mean, you've grown as a company, and you've grown in what you offer your authors and the support. I mean, there's so many opportunities to ask questions. How should I say this? You guide them. You have people in your company who guide them. And usually the lead author is right there for support too. So yeah, kudos to all as far as you've come.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, so somebody's just saying she loves the conversation and all you are doing. So awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Um, yeah, so what do you have going on? I know that you keep growing and I keep growing too. I think once you get on that self-development train, it's like, I'm not there yet. I want to keep going, right? So what's the next thing? So what are you now doing with your authors, and what do you have on your agenda?
Oh, so much awesomeness. Um, we're looking into 2024, and we are just about sold out for our collaborative schedule. That is freaking exciting. So there are several projects that even beginning authors can come into and write a chapter for. And sometimes that doesn't seem as daunting as the whole book, right? So I wanted to give people an opportunity to get the coaching and dip their toe in and feel good about doing it with a community, maybe before they venture out and try the whole solo book, which is quite another adventure, But we're putting a lot of different kinds of programs into the mix. We've got a writer's circle for writers who want to meet regularly and stay accountable to their practice and improve. And we have a big retreat coming, which is big focus right now, because one thing I realized, I did it a couple of times with, I'll shout out Stephanie Urbina Jones, who pulled me to Mexico with her and said, hey, let's retreat with our authors as a kickoff to this book project. And so we're going to go to New York in May of 24, and we're going to bring 2 books worth of authors together. That'll be almost 50 people. And we're going to heal together and write together, and then we're going to publish together. So the retreat is really a big deal for me. It's a big first time event that I'm going to hold. And I've done it with Stephanie a couple of times. It was their deal. And I just said, okay, I'll come and teach everyone how to do the writing part,
Yeah.
So that's a big one right now.
That sounds amazing. And I want to make sure that the title was How to Share Your Story. So can you give some pointers on letting people know the best way or some tips on how to share their story?
Definitely. So, there's a couple things that stop people up with this. The one that I hear that may sound funny is, my story isn't interesting enough. It's not bad enough. And I hear that and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But they're in comparisonitis. So they've heard somebody else's tragedy or trauma story, and they have decided that their own story isn't going to help anyone. First of all, everything's been written before, but not by you in the exact unique way. Only you can tell a story, share a story. So your story does matter. So if we started with that one basic "you are worthy" tip, and you never know who is listening, who is reading, who is behind the scenes listening to you share your passion and your energy and your intention and your love. Keep doing that. Keep being yourself out loud in front of other people. I think that's tip number 1, And then if you're ready to write it down, if you want a tip for going there, what I see across the board as the biggest mistake is we are not sharing our personal stories. We're just stepping up as the master teacher that we are, and we're telling people what to do without letting them get to know us first. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, Laura, who are you to, teach me or tell me what to do with my publishing? Well, I self-published my first book in 2012. It was a journey detailing my life as a martial artist, living, healing, and Taekwondo. And back when my son was 5.5, we were looking for an activity to do with him. So we watched a Taekwondo class together. And we finished watching, and he looked up at me, and I looked down at him, and I'm like, well, you going to do it? And he's like, well, I'll do it if you do it, Mom. And I was 38. I signed up, and 6 years later, we earned our black belts together. Wow. That. So that was my first book. And I had journaled for 6 years during that training, right? Wow. And I looked at those journals and I thought, whoa, it's here. This is here. Like, I can do this, And so now you guys have heard a little bitty story from Laura. Now I have a kid. I have 2 kids, by the way. Now you know that I'm a martial artist, which should tell you something about me, my crazy ass. And 6 years of training, not everybody does that, And so share your stories. Like, that's not a trauma story. That's a triumph story, right? Like, share your successes, share your personal tidbits, share your stuff. And people are going to be like, oh, I like her. Like, out of all the different publishers or writing coaches I could pick, I think she's my gal because we have something there. There's something resonating. There's something aligning. Share your stories.
Yeah. And I like how you say share it your way, your words, because there's always somebody who's going to resonate with you. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Not everybody's going to listen to one person. There's always enough people to go around and who are going to resonate with you. Totally
Definitely.
believe that. I love all your tips and how to get people into the feeling of it and not so much just telling it.
Those are foundational ways that we teach our authors to write. So I'm starting to coin the phrase, the brave story medicine method. Your storytelling is medicine. And the way that you show a scene matters to the reader because they're either going to feel something or not, or they're going to feel disinterested, right? You don't want that. So thanks for that, because I want you to feel excited. I want you to feel inspired. So if I am not feeling those things when I sit at my computer and type my story that day, I better pause, do a little breath work, get my healing moment on so that I can conjure up the inspiration and the energy that I want to infuse the pages with. It's really important to understand that. And this actually ties into what I was saying before. We're just like, I know exactly what to tell them to do, and I'm just going to type this out and it's going to be amazing. And then you skip over the whole feeling part of it.
Yeah.
And the reason you want to connect with that person as a human, and then about what they do, like coach your writing or coach your publishing or whatever it is. So, yep, that's a big deal.
And you bring up a good point, because I don't think I ever realized before the energy that you write from, because I had a lot of fear, just being seen, writing, all that. So all that went into my writing, all that went into everything I did. And now the more I understand about energy, you're right. You have to sit down and get excited and then kind of infuse that, like you said, into your writing, into the words, into whoever reads that. And that creates a whole different synergy around everything you're doing.
Your entire life and in business. So, most authors are writing for an audience. And if you have a book, you have a business, whether you have a whole other business behind it or not, as you and I both do. But the business coaching piece here is, yes, this energy matters. And who is that person that you're writing for? If you're writing to everyone in the world, you're writing to nobody. So who is it? Like, think of a face and a name, and then ask yourself, well, how do I want them to feel? What do they need today? Do they need the excitement and inspiration, or do they just need connection today?
Yeah.
And you can be very choosy about the energy that you curate and then create your story with. And it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. And you bring up another point that a lot of healers are just so afraid to create that niche, to narrow down who's your ideal client.
Oh, don't get me started on that one.
Right.
Don't get me started on that one. Like, after a while, I looked at my beautiful women entrepreneur healers, and I said, you are my gal. Then that did not mean that men didn't show up in my world.
Right.
It did not mean that non-healers didn't show up in my world. It just meant that I knew who I was speaking to, and I started hitting direct shots to hearts, because I knew it was like getting the comment from some of my emails would go something like, whoa, how are you in my head? Like, you wrote that exactly for me. I'm like, I know. And all the other healer people that I'm speaking to, right? But once you get that, and you start to go ahead and niche, don't use that word. It really is powerful.
Very powerful.
Your voice gets louder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it even goes into your SEO. It just goes into so much more. I mean,
Totally.
this is going on YouTube, and I recently started doing more research into, okay, what are the titles? What are the hashtags people are using? What are the words? And you teach this in some of your business programs. I was using the totally different wrong words. People are using chronic pain. They're not using pain relief or low back pain. It's like chronic pain, people. So when you find your words and your people, it all just lines up easier.
Yes,
I totally get
definitely.
everything you're saying.
And you're giving me a moment too, us as people who want to help and also energy conscious people will tend to very purposefully choose more high vibe words or positive
Yes.
words where our people that we're solving the problems for are not.
Hmm.
They're actually searching for the problem words, not the solution words, where we want to offer the solution. So we're like hashtag positivity, high vibes, pain free, all the things that we type in. But meanwhile, like you said, it's like, please help me with my chronic pain,
Yeah.
like yeah, and that makes sense to think about that. And
Hmm.
you have to get into the body and mind of that person you're serving. So, and oh my gosh, this technical stuff, right? I think all of us business owners need a little help with this because really we ought to be helping people, not working on our SEO.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And I do. Yeah. Higher, 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 higher.
Good
And
advice.
if you know anything about human design, I'm a projector, so I'm supposed to be on my couch not doing anything, which I learn to embrace a lot more often these days. Um, so what do you say to the people who are on the fence? I mean, I'm offering retreats. The Energy Medicine Solution has a retreat. You have retreats. What do we say to people who are like, I just don't know. It doesn't sound like it's for me, and those people are definitely out. But the people who are like, I just don't get what you're talking about. How can you heal?
I think that I would really have to understand who you're talking about. So that's a really hard question without knowing the person. But if
Mhm.
you're somebody who has been struggling, and if you're going to be a client for our writers retreat for entrepreneurs who are changing the world and want to break through to the next level of being seen and heard by being in a published book, right? I was just very specific in those sentences just now.
Mhm.
Then I'm going to say to you, what don't you know? Like, are you afraid? Is this purpose-driven fear? Because that's boring to me. Like, you have to take some risks, and it's
Yeah.
exactly that feeling of fear that could be your compass right now, but you're just so used to letting it stop
Mhm.
you instead of taking action. So for me, I flipped it a while ago. I'm like, ooh, there's that feeling. Like,
Yeah.
that must mean I need to like do this, right?
Really
And
do this. Yeah.
yes. And I learned to discern, but that's an awareness process. So for some people, maybe even just hearing this is going to help them because
Mhm.
they've been stuck in that way that they're paralyzing themselves with the doubt.
Yeah.
And so there's another way that you can respond to that feeling. And for me, that's been a game changer, like big time. So I would say do it, do it, do it. Take a risk, have an adventure, meet new people, try new
Mhm.
healing modalities, write your words, publish, scare the crap out of
Mhm.
yourself and go for it. Like, let's do this, right? And you're not alone. That's the thing, is like retreats like yours and mine, like we're holding your hand, people.
Yeah.
You are,
Yeah.
you're not going to be sitting there flailing. Now, if you're worried about like crying in front of people, well, I get it.
We're all going to be crying.
Exactly. Like, but that's also not the goal of our retreat either,
True.
right? Like, I
Absolutely.
know,
No.
yeah, you tend to want to warn people about self-development work because it means being vulnerable, but we need to talk about the possible transformation
Yeah.
of going there.
And I just did a video for my TikTok channel. It's time to talk about your feelings. And that's going to be my second book when
I love
the
it.
retreat is over. Um, So many people don't want to talk about our feelings, and that's part of self-development because
Yes.
we've shut down for so long and we've been taught to not talk about your feelings. Get over it, move on, you're too sensitive, whatever you've been told. But the way out of it is acknowledging your feelings. So, yes, one of the things we do at these retreats is get in touch with who you are and what feelings do you want to hold on to? What do you want to expand into? Because when you really delve into feelings and feeling the world and the earth and yourself and who you are, it's a different life. And I love when you say um, something about come see what's really possible for your life. That is just opens the door to so much.
Yes. And I have tried to give myself permission to feel everything. And I actually try not to talk about it so much. I focus first on just noticing my own body with it,
Mhm.
noticing the thoughts going on with the feeling. Fear is just a feeling.
Mhm.
Fear is a feeling. And if for a lot of people, it might be chest, it might be gut, right? And so when you start to make the feelings mean something and you start to tell stories about what you're feeling in your body, then we start to complicate things. We add baggage to our baggage, and all of a sudden we're like, ugh. So again, awareness, discernment of these feelings, it's super important to understand that's where you're going to find the possibilities.
Mm. And that's where you're going to step into so much of your power and your strength, and you're going to do things that you never thought you could, which
Hmm.
will lead you to the next thing. And that's when you're
Yes.
really living your life. Um,
The
anything,
cool life is
yeah,
in the discomfort zone.
it is.
The
Yeah.
cool adventure is in that place where you kind of have to dip your toe a little bit first and then you could cannonball later.
Hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of people are afraid of that. There's not, we aren't, like you already said, we've been trained to do the opposite.
Complete opposite.
Yeah.
Run the other way when you feel that fear instead of leaning in. Well, what's the fear about? The fear may just be that this could change everything for you, like you say.
So start with hanging out with people like Jacqueline, with people like me that really have fun with this and can help you be brave. And
Uh,
that, I mean, honestly, you got to curate your inner circle of people, right? That's one of the reasons why y'all should go to a retreat.
yes. And sometimes we need to discern who we hang out with and who we don't hang out with
All the time.
all the time. There was something else I was going to say, but it's gone. So, thank you, Laura. This was really great. Is there anything else you want to let people know?
Hmm. I would just say that, it's easier to be confused. It's actually easier to not make a decision. So do the thing that scares you a little bit, jump into your yes and take that adventure. And I had those words said to me, by the way, from a master healer, because I was really confused at one point about whether or not I should ask for my divorce. And
Mm.
she stared at me and she's like, well, it's easier to be confused, isn't it? Because you can just sit there and not do anything about it. And I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a very powerful statement. And I don't know, it's interesting. That one hasn't come up in a while to share. So there it is.
Somebody needed to hear that. So thank
Yeah.
you. So, how can people get a hold of you, Laura?
So come on over to lauradifranco.com, bravehealer.com, same place. You can reach out to me on Facebook and come into our groups and so many ways. Happy to chat with anybody who wants to talk books or courage.
Yes, courage. Well, thank you, Laura, for being here. I loved our conversation, and thank you all for watching. Please reach out to Laura and get into her community. She gives so much to so many people. And thank you so much for being here. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.